Welcome back to the channel, y'all. And recently, we've been talking a lot about the new military fitness standards, the new PT tests, the new combat fitness tests, and also women on the front lines of combat. And if you haven't seen, this week, right on time and almost right on cue, the first female to complete the Best Ranger competition. And guys, I'm going to be completely honest with you, upfront, transparent in this video. Guys, this changes everything. This changes the landscape completely. It changes the environment. It changes the battle space. I'll give you my perspective on this. Not only do I think women now should be on the front lines of combat, I think they should be the only ones on the front line of combat. And I think it's time for men to take our mantle in society in our rightful place. We're taking over as the secretaries, the baristas, the OnlyFans models. That's our game now. Not only that, this proves men should absolutely be competing against women in women's sports, and men and women are exactly the same biologically.
Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to smash the other girls.
Okay, let's just get that out of the way up front. Now, I do want to say congrats to Lieutenant White for completing Best Ranger competition. Sarcasm outside of it, right? I do think that's actually badass of her. I think she's a total badass chick. They placed 18th out of 50th, which very, very well done, right? I'm not going to knock that from her. I'm not going to take that from her. But does that actually mean because one woman, the 0.000000001% of women who can meet that standard, does that mean now we should fill the front lines of combat arms with females? We're going to talk about that in video, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you. It's going to piss a lot of people off, but that's fine. You guys know I don't care. Okay, so before we jump into this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, all right? All the merch is restocked. All the VFT Munchkin merch is in, and also consider following us on Patreon, right? Let's jump into the video. All right, so Best Ranger competition, what is it? Why is this a big deal? All right, so it's not Ranger School, it's not Ranger Battalion, it's an actual competition the military puts on. You can basically think of it as a 3-day Tough Mudder that also adds in a bunch of military competency events, right? There's firearms stuff, grenade stuff, rappelling, ruck marching, running, anti-tank, right? Everything you could think of that we may do in combat, right? As a proficiency is going to be included in that. Does that mean it replicates combat? Does the Best Ranger competition replicate combat? No, not even fucking close. Okay, let's be honest about that. But that doesn't mean that it's not super challenging. That doesn't mean it's not super badass that Lieutenant White passed, which I do think it is. However, does that mean because one woman passed Best Ranger competition that we now need women on the front lines of the U.S. military in combat? And guys, I haven't really danced around this. I'm very forward about it, but I haven't given you like my real true perspective, and that's what I'm doing this video. And again, it's probably gonna make a lot of people upset. I get a ton of people on the left who get upset in this that think men and women are exactly the same. Just like we're gonna show a clip of President Obama here. But it is what it is. I'm going to give you guys all the reasons you haven't thought about of why I personally believe women have no place on the front lines of combat, even if they can, potentially, one woman can meet the standards. Okay, that's what we're getting into. First, here's a clip just so you can see the way the media is reporting this, because, of course, they're making it political. So let's check that out.
Extraordinary women in uniform who can do everything that a man can and more.
But the future of that integration increasingly uncertain under President Trump. Before his confirmation, Trump's Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth speaking out against women in combat.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
Hegseth's Defense Department publicly congratulating the winners of the competition on X and sharing another photo of two soldiers there firing a mortar, but saying nothing about First Lieutenant White's historic participation. In response to a request from NBC News, they provided some basic biographical facts in a statement. White's presence, however, still speaking volumes, proving that female challengers can compete in one of the military's highest profile events for elite soldiers.
Yes, so it proves that a woman can compete in the Best Ranger competition. Okay, it does not prove that women can accomplish what men can in combat, unfortunately. Again, I don't want to take anything away from Lieutenant White, but I'll just say this up front. Do I think it's okay for women to compete in the Best Ranger competition and go to Ranger school? Sure. whatever. Okay. If we want to say, you know, you can go there for leadership and to test yourself, that's fine. But that doesn't mean then we send them to the front lines. And we're going to talk about, again, all of the sort of niche and less understood reasons for why. Because, guys, I've been to combat like a lot of you probably have, and a lot of the rest of the military has, and war and ugly combat. Okay. And my perspective comes from that, not from my own personal biases or anything like that, but strictly because I've done it. I've done the job. I know what it takes. I know what it entails, and it's no place for a woman on the front lines. Okay. And let's jump into it. All right. And I'm going to give you guys a bunch of things. All right. So let's start with the first one. First one, and one of the biggest issues is that men do not react the same to women being injured as they do to men. All right. And this has been proven through studies, not only through the US military, but also the Israeli military. And what they found, Israeli military, obviously everyone gets conscripted, men and women alike. And what they have found is that when women get shot or injured in combat, men do not react the same way as they would as if a man did. Now, why is that important? Okay, because when a female gets hit, men have the sort of big brother complex to rush to their aid. Okay, I know this is hard for a lot of people to understand, but in a gunfight, your primary job when someone is injured is not to treat them. Okay, it is to eliminate the threat. Until the threat is eliminated, it is no place for you to run out, put yourself in danger, all right, and then start trying to treat someone and get yourself shot yourselves. All right, I'm going to put some pictures up here so you can see. This is a famous pictures from Fallujah of exactly this. All right, you have somebody that gets hit, they go down, somebody runs out. It's from sniper fire. They get hit, they go down. Another person runs out. Boom, 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 boom. Men are far more likely to make poor decisions if a woman is injured in front of them. Okay, that's not my opinion. That's objective fact, and it's been proven through studies. All right, next thing we need to talk about that nobody ever wants to talk about, right? Because whenever we see a female complete something, it's typically on a 3-day event like this, right? And combat is not a 3-day event, unfortunately. And okay, so with prolonged endurance, what I mean by that is you're going to be doing something like a best ranger competition every 3 to 4 days. All right, if you're in combat arms, Green Beret, infantry, you're going to go outside the wire, you're going to do 12, 14-hour movements, right? 100 plus pounds on your back, and you're going to do it over and over and over and over again for 6 to 9 to 12 months. All right, that is where that wear and tear beat down on the body overall over long periods of time. Men with our high testosterone levels comparatively have far faster muscle recovery and muscle endurance and greater muscle endurance and things like that. This isn't my opinion. This is objective fact. Okay. So when we're talking about long-term deployments, combat deployments, that then does become an issue over the very long term. Rest of the video here. All right, guys. So again, I'm sorry this is a rant. This is just a rant video because I'm fucking tired of seeing this stuff. I'm sorry. It is what it is. All right, next one. Men and women in working environments. This isn't even exclusive to the military, anywhere. All right, how many workplace romances do you guys see? All right, well, when you're working at Deloitte or KPMG or wherever, not that big of a deal. Maybe you ruin some marriages, right? Maybe you ruin the workplace environment. Well, I'll tell you this, when your job is war fighting and you disrupt the environment of the team and you ruin the team dynamic through a romance, which is really not a thing in combat arms because it's all men for the most part. All right, so again, this is not the type of thing we need to have happening in combat arms, right? Fraternization is going to happen. It happens in the corporate world. It happens in the military. Hell, for a special forces group, we had an officer, high-ranking officer, got caught for trading sexual favors for promotions, right? The female officers were happily obliging for it. It happens, okay? And the one place it doesn't need to happen is in the space of war fighting. It's just going to create tons of problems, tons of drama. You can pretend that this doesn't happen, and it's not something that could happen because everybody's professional, but that's not the way human beings work, okay? Another big whoopsie. Now, the other one I'm going to say, and this is the biggest one we talk about in Special Forces because we work on 12-man teams, very small teams, and that is it puts incredible amounts of stress on families and marriages on that team. And let me explain to you guys. So you've got 12 Green Berets working, living potentially in super austere environments, right? Living on top of each other in bays and bunks and all sorts of different things for 6+ months at a time. And now you introduce a female into that environment. Okay. Even if your husband is the best, most faithful husband in the world, it puts that sort of uncomfortability and doubt in every single one of those spouses' heads. While instead they should be worried about their husband coming back alive. Now they're worried about the fact that there's a woman living on top of them as well. Okay. Just causes more undue stress, more undue problems for, again, the team dynamic and everybody that's married on that team. Okay. You can pretend that's not a thing. I can promise you it's a problem. All right, next one, and this kind of goes into the how you destroy the team dynamic with fraternization. Let me give you guys a little bit of a, and this is something, these are things we've seen happen, okay? Not with females necessarily on teams, but on deployments, working in med sheds and things like that. And what happens? All right, your junior 18 Bravo weapon sergeant, okay, is hanging out, and the team sergeant is dating some girl. Now, let's say the team sergeant is sleeping with the girl who's on the team, right? Well, she gets tired of him, so she starts sleeping with the 18 Bravo, the junior 18 Bravo. Now, the team sergeant's furious. He gets pissed, right? He wants to kick the 18 Bravo off the team. They're fist fighting. Guys are fighting. Like, insanity, guys. And again, you want to pretend like this type of thing is not going to happen. It happens in, again, the corporate world. And I'm sure all of you listening have heard about workplace romances and how they've caused insane amounts of drama, right? And now, again, not that big of a deal, right? When you're working at, a restaurant or something like that. But again, when you have to go out on a combat operation, people are potentially going to die. It obviously becomes a huge issue, and it's a distraction from the mission. All of this is a huge distraction from the mission. And like Pete Hegseth said, Secretary Hegseth said, right, hasn't made us more lethal, has caused a bunch of extra problems. Okay. So again, more problems. All right. Final one. Okay. Best Ranger, very body weight, other than the rucksack, 45 pounds, body weight centric events, just like Ranger School. Okay. Still, I want to see you carry my unconscious 370-pound body in kit over 100 meters while under fire and save my life. I just don't believe that, other than maybe a few women at the top echelons of the CrossFit world, this is not physically going to happen. Okay, for me, when I was operational, I could deadlift about 585 pounds. Why is that important? Well, because when my buddy gets knocked unconscious by an IED and I need to drag him out of a fatal funnel so he doesn't die, okay, and he weighs 350 pounds in kit, well, I can deadlift 285 or 225 pounds more than that. So dragging his body, not that challenging for me. Okay. How many women can deadlift 585 pounds while also still being athletic, fast, and be able to move, shoot, communicate? Statistically rounded to the nearest whole number, close to zero. Okay. And again, sorry if I hurt your feelings on this, but this is, again, candid, and I'm just going to tell you how I feel because I'm fucking sick of it. Right now, next. And again, there's just a ton, right? We go on and on and on. All right, women, and this one's going to piss the most people off because they're sheltered in America and they don't understand how the rest of the world works. And I'm talking about Middle Eastern cultures, Asian cultures, Latin cultures. It's down the list. These cultures do not respect women in authority positions. Period. Okay, especially if you're talking about the Middle East. So you put a female Green Beret or whatever on a team, and you want to have her be in charge of a bunch of Afghans or Syrians or Iraqis, 0% chance that will work. They won't take direction from them. They won't respect them. They won't do anything. It is a problem. Now you have a team leader potentially that's a female that's supposed to be in charge of everyone and has a counterpart. Nah, homie. It doesn't, it's not the way it works. It sucks to say, right? Because from our American culture, men, women are the same and girl boss and all that. Sorry, but the rest of the world doesn't work that way, and it's not how they look at things. Okay. And that becomes a problem, especially for combat arms units like Green Berets. Okay. Where we have to work by, with, and through our partners and get respect and get them to do things we need them to do. It's not going to happen. All right. Final one. Our culture. And I've said this before, and I'm going to leave you guys with this into the video with again, something I've said, and I mean it, and I will not budge from it. Okay. American culture. Any society that is intent on putting its daughters, its mothers, its sisters, its wives on the front lines of combat is not a society that deserves to be fought for to begin with. And if you are the type of person that wants women to be on the front lines of combat, you are the problem. Not men like me who have fought the wars ourselves. And again, you know why I get to have this opinion? Because I went and fought wars on behalf of America. So I can say whatever the fuck I want about this. Okay? Men, it's our job, it's our duty, it's our responsibility. Protect, provide, and defend the nation if we have to. Period. Stop the fucking bullshit and the insanity. No women on the front lines of combat. Period. All right, guys. That'll do it for this one. Have a good day.